Welcome to the Exploring Unschooling podcast. I'm Pam Laricchia, longtime unschooling mom and author. Join me and my wonderful guests for interviews, information, and inspiration about unschooling and living joyfully with your family. You can find the episode show notes, your free introductory ebook, What is Unschooling, and lots more information at livingjoyfully.ca. And here's the show. Hi everyone, I'm Pam Laricchia, and this is episode number 83 of the podcast. It's the 2nd of August, 2017, as I record this intro. And this week, I chat with Tami Stroud. Tami is an unschooling mom of 6 kids, ranging in age from 4 to 13. We have a really fun conversation about her family's move to unschooling, their journey to being a nomadic unschooling family, originally through circumstances and a sense of adventure, and now they're actively choosing it. We also dive into some great posts on her blog about hard work, grit, entitlement, rewards, and punishment. And last but not least, she has some wonderful tips for unschooling with a large family. And just a quick reminder, if you'd like to submit a question for our Q&A episodes, just go to livingjoyfully.ca/podcast and click on the link. We'll be recording the August Q&A episode pretty soon. As a personal update, things are relatively quiet around here. I'm spending much of my time trying to finish up my unschooling journey manuscript to get it to my editor in a week and a half. As well, I'm working on the online version of the Childhood Redefined Summit with Anne and Anna. The website has been updated with new information, and you can sign up to the mailing list to stay in the loop. We sent out an update yesterday as we gear up for the fall launch. Yay! It's going to be a lot of fun. So you can check that all out at childhoodredefined.com. And I want to say thank you to everyone who has chosen to support the show on Patreon. And a big welcome to new patron, Lara Brothers. Thanks for joining us, Lara. And I deeply appreciate all of my patrons. You guys inspire me. And I love that you're helping me share unschooling information with anyone who wants to explore ways to live this wonderful lifestyle with their family. If you'd like to support the show, even for as little as $1 a month, check out the Exploring Unschooling page at patreon.com. That's patreon.com/exploring unschooling. And this week's quote is from Tami. When you also think about the rewards and punishment in light of entitlement, that goes back to you condition people to only want to do a thing if they are getting some sort of benefit. You create this reward economy that you are paying for the behavior or the goodness you want, rather than people just being good to be good and to freely give themselves. It was in that conversation around hard work, that series on her blog, where she dug into the question, do people do hard things even when they are not forced to do them? And it was such a clear explanation of how the conventional wisdom that you must reward children to do hard things backfires. Once you create that reward economy, of course they're going to come to expect the reward, to feel entitled to the reward. And now, on to the interview with Tami. Hi everyone, I'm Pam Laricchia from livingjoyfully.ca, and today I'm here with Tami Stroud. Hi Tami.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
That's good. I came across Tami online and really enjoyed spending some time reading her blog. I was really fascinated by their adventures and wanted to learn more, so I was very happy when she agreed to chat with me on the podcast. I'm really looking forward to diving into your unschooling adventures. So to get us started, Tami, can you share with us a bit about you and your family and how you discovered unschooling?
Sure. Really excited to be here. So we have 6 children. We have 4 boys and 2 girls. They're currently ages 13 down to 4. We're an American family, and we're actually visiting in the U.S. right now, but we kind of, for the last 7 years, have lived sort of a more nomadic, sometimes expat lifestyle. And our current expat home is in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. My husband works there as a head of libraries for a local private school, and we moved to that place in the beginning of the 2015-2016 school year. And before there, our first place we moved to when we moved away from kind of suburban Atlanta was Al Ain, United Arab Emirates. We lived there for 3 years, and the UAE, most people know it from Dubai, and we lived about an hour and a half outside of Dubai. And then after that, we lived in the native Alaskan Chupik village of Chivak, Alaska, and it's like this little tiny fly-in village. uh, so. We have a lot going for us for stuff to talk about.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Let's see. Our family's Christian, and yes, we're Christian living in a Muslim country. I'm also, in addition to kind of homeschooling and unschooling, I'm kind of passionate about fertility awareness and birth work. And so sometimes I'll work as a doula, a childbirth educator, and also in Saudi Arabia, I've worked to kind of create a group to help women learn fertility awareness. And so that's kind of my other side interest. And then with homeschooling, like when I moved to Riyadh, I ended up taking over their local Home Educators of Riyadh Facebook group when the previous admin was leaving the country. And so that's been kind of a fun work because, I mean, we have, and over there, like how unschooling is seen in the U.S., like that's how homeschooling is seen there. It's like this fringe crazy thing. So we're good if we can, get people not to give you the side eye for just saying homeschooling. So let's see. And this is kind of on kind of a school year schedule. We're just finishing up or about to start. We're finishing up our 7th year homeschooling, about to start our 8th year. And then with unschooling, it kind of our unschooling schedule follows kind of a more calendar year, and so we're kind of in the middle of our 6th year of intentionally unschooling. And let's see, I didn't really get to. That's kind of an overview of who our family is. Yeah. And I guess I can talk a little bit more about kind of how we got to homeschooling and unschooling, I guess.
Yeah, no, that would be cool. Yeah.
Okay.
You could chat about how you discovered it, how you came across it, and what your family's move to unschooling looked like.
Sure. So our homeschool timeline kind of seems to match up with how long we've been sort of moving around and stuff like that. But actually, our family decided to start homeschooling before we even realized we were going to move. My husband, obviously, he works in a school, and I actually have an education degree, and so we both kind of come from this traditional schooling background. And so, before we had kids, we just kind of assumed, yes, our kids are going to go to school, and that's that. And when I started having kids, I stayed home with my kids. And then I ended up working part-time at a local Christian preschool. And then they started like a primary school that was attached to the preschool. And so my oldest, my young kids went there with me 3 days a week to the preschool. And then when they started the kindergarten and so forth, my oldest ended up going to the kindergarten. And for me, like that should have been the perfect fit. They had like this small class size. I knew all the teachers. They were all really nice people. They shared our religious views. Like everything should have been like this perfect fit. Mm-hmm. And it just wasn't. And my little kindergarten little boy was coming home hating school. And I'm like, what is going on? What is wrong with this picture? And so for me, that kind of set me searching, like, okay, what are other people doing? What are other people finding that's working for them? And I was kind of exploring what are people that are doing homeschooling? What does it look like for them? And that sort of thing. And I also kind of concurrently, I had 4 kids at the time. I just had my 4th, I believe. And the other thing I was kind of noticing that year that my oldest went to kindergarten was that I was kind of seeing how the different schedules were going, because like he went to school 5 days a week, and then I worked 3 mornings a week, and the little ones went with me 3 mornings a week. And so like, and it wasn't even that busy of a schedule, but I was already starting to see kind of down the pipeline of like all of us kind of going in different directions, and just, that kind of lifestyle. And that's just not really what I wanted. I was like, I didn't want to be, constantly transporting people everywhere. That's just wasn't the rhythm of life I wanted.
Yeah, that would be all management, wouldn't it? Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next year, so anyway, that summer, we knew that my husband was leaving the job he was at, just independent of my son going to kindergarten and not liking kindergarten. And we knew he was planning on doing another job. We didn't know what. We just kind of, every time something had always kind of turned up and everything had worked out. So that's kind of how we were looking at it. Mm-hmm. And along with that, I was also thinking that the private school, little private Christian private school that my son went to, did a homeschool co-op thing where they allowed homeschooled students to go part-time, 1 or 2 or 3 days a week, and then to be homeschooled the other days. And so I thought, okay, maybe we'll try that, and maybe that will be a better fit for us. So that was my plan going into like his first grade year. And then, we get to kind of the end of July and the beginning of August, and nothing's really panning out as far as the job market. And my husband sees, this is so insane, sees this listing on Craigslist to teach abroad. And when he sees it, we just treat it like a joke. We're like, yeah, we're going to go to Abu Dhabi. Yeah. And so like he shoots off an email to them, just, kicking tires, but neither of us are really taking it seriously. And then the recruiting agency ends up calling him. He ends up doing a little more research to realize they're legit, even though they're advertising on Craigslist. And one thing led to another. And from like the beginning of August, where we had no inkling that we were going to move or anything like that, to at the beginning of September, our feet are on the ground in the United Arab Emirates and Abu Dhabi.
Wow.
So yeah, from there, like from that big move, homeschooling just made a whole lot more sense because I mean, like it's this huge change for your family. And so it just simplifies a lot of things. We're not looking for like this private school. And the only options over there for expats is to pay for an expensive private school and to kind of go that route if you're not homeschooling. There's no free public education for expats over there. So, we're looking at, we had 4 kids and I was pregnant with my 5th at the time. And so, yeah, that didn't make sense. And so even though like we're kind of being pulled towards homeschooling, it's just everything's aligning where it makes a lot of sense for us to kind of give this a go. So we move and, we decide, okay, we're going to do this homeschooling thing. And I had kind of been okay with a somewhat more relaxed homeschooling thing. Like we did like the 5 in a row thing where you read the books. And, I still think that's kind of a, if you're going to homeschool, it's a rather sweet curriculum. And I have good memories of our time doing that. But like, I had this lovely, lovely schedule of like, we're going to do this in the morning. We're going to do this. And, 5 little kids, it just doesn't work out. And so I kept like, I don't know, like for me, like I kept comparing like what I wanted with my reality. And I was like, okay, there's gotta be a way to make both these things fit. I want my children to be learning things. I want us to be peaceful. I want us to, have this nice, happy home. And, when I'm creating these schedules, it's just not working out that way. There's always just this tension of not following the schedule and them not doing the work I want them to do and like all of that. And so that's kind of what sort of set me searching down the path of unschooling. And then 2, just just the whole craziness of life that, it kind of plows over all your ideas of what homeschooling is going to be like. And then, 2 or 3 months down the line, you're like, oh, I've only homeschooled like 3 days. But then, like, you look at your kids and you're like, wait, we're still learning. They're still coming and talking to me about stuff. And they're still, picking up stuff here and there. And you're like, okay, what's going on here? And so I don't know, I'm comparing like my real life experience with kind of what's going on and saying, well, this is still kind of working. And so that sort of, again, I'm just reading different people, their experiences and what they're saying they're doing and how they're defining it. And so basically we get to, I guess when was it? I don't know, about 6 years ago. It was Christmas break, and let's see, I had 5 kids at the time, and my youngest was still a baby. And I remember talking to my husband about that, okay, I want to give unschooling a try. I want to give it like a legitimate try, like not this sort of guilt thing of where we don't actually do anything and, and then that sort of thing. Like I want to like do this in earnest. And so I was like, okay, we're going to do this for 6 months and kind of see where we are. And so, we did 6 months and then it just sort of, the world didn't explode and it was fine. And I mean, there were like, for me, like with the trial thing, like I wanted to kind of stretch myself, I guess, and see kind of where in the realm of like academically unschooling, radically unschooling, like all of that stuff, like where my tolerance level was, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I really tried to kind of push myself to say yes as much as I could and that sort of thing. Because I felt like, okay, we're going to try this and it's not a forever decision and we're going to just see how it goes. And then I can always tweak it later if I want to. And for me, that worked well. That gave me permission to kind of try a bunch of different things and not feel like this is like some forever decision. I'm going to ruin my kids or, any of that stuff. It was just sort of, this is our experiment we're doing right now and we're going to see where it goes. And that worked well for me. And that, like, I don't know, gave me a lot more flexibility to, I don't know, say yes, I guess, to different things.
Yeah, that sounds really cool because, I mean, at first you were noticing it was kind of happening almost by accident, right? Because you just weren't having enough time to homeschool more formally. But then that choice, to do it in earnest for a while, give it that time and see what happens. I love the way you described that, like choosing to do it purposefully, right?
Right.
And do it as well as you can so that you can really see what it's like, not like you said, almost doing it guiltily, because that doesn't help you understand it better, does it?
Right.
That's really cool.
You're always have in the back of your head, well, I should be, and and when I finally, we're really doing this and this is what I'm choosing, then that kind of gave me a whole new frame of reference of, I don't know, sort of empowerment. And this is what we're doing and my kids are learning and, we're, I don't know, the choice of doing it was a good thing for us.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. And I think it helps because when we started as well, we said, you know what, we'll try it out for a year, like a school year kind of deal. Cause the kids left, what were grades 4, 2, and junior kindergarten. So, they left in March break and we kind of took the summer and that's when I discovered unschooling. And it's like, you know what, let's try this. Earnestly is a great word for it. I'm going to learn as much as I can about it and I'm going to really put my heart into it and see what happens. And, we can always change our mind later or tweak it, as you said. But I think giving it a good chunk of time, because it's not something that you can understand and really delve into in a short amount of time. But 6 months to a year, I think That really helps take the pressure off it and let you dive in without worrying, right? Because you know that you can always change things up as you go along and learn more.
Right.
Yeah, that's really helpful. You have mentioned your nomadic lifestyle. So I'm curious to know, so you moved for that one particular job. So from there, what did your kind of choice look like to start to not move back at the end of that job, but to start moving around? So I was wondering what inspired that, and to just talk a bit about where you guys have lived so far and what that's been like.
Right. So, right. In the beginning, we're moving there for a job, and it was a 2-year contract, and we just kind of thought, okay, we're going to do the 2 years. You can do anything for just a little bit amount of time, and we'll be done, and we'll slip back into our suburban Georgia life. And then at the end of 2 years, we hadn't really admitted to ourselves that we kind of really want to keep doing this, but it was like, well, okay, maybe we'll just do just one more year. And then at the end of that year, just a random connection. My husband had, while he was over there, finished up getting his media specialist certification and all that stuff. And somebody shot him an email of this job in remote Alaska as a joke, and said, "Oh, I found you a library job." and the same kind of way, my husband shoots off an email to the person posting the job listing, and immediately they're like, "Call us back. We want to get in touch with you." And so, and again, like one thing led to another, and we were like, "Let's just do this. Let's just see what it's like." And and that kind of moving to Alaska kind of solidified that we really like this experience of living in foreign places and experiencing the foreign culture and just getting to, I don't know, see life that way. And yeah, and I know Alaska is technically not, an expat location for us because we're American, but where we lived in Alaska was by far the most foreign place I've ever lived. It was this tiny Native Alaskan village, and it's not on the road system. Like, you can only get there on these little planes, and the little planes seat 10 people, and we're a family of 8. And so, yeah, like we pretty much fill up the little planes. And, the airport's there. It's just a dirt airport, totally exposed to the elements. You get outside, and then you either, depending on the time of year, you either get on like a 4-wheeler ATV to drive you to your house, or you get on a snow machine. Like in the village, there's no paved roads or anything like that. And I think maybe 2 or 3 people own like big pickup trucks. Everyone else owns like these 4-wheeler ATVs and snow machines. And that's how you get around. And it's like 1 square mile and about 1,000 people. And so, yeah, life is just really, really different in Chivak.
Yeah.
And for me, life in Chivak, I don't know, it was a really great experience as far as unschooling, because like it was this really sort of insular little house on the prairie kind of thing. And like I don't know, I ended up kind of just having this idea that my whole focus was going to be on relationships while I was there. Cause like, it's just so inward focused and family focused. Like there's no movie theaters there. There's no restaurants there. Like you got to be content with the people you're with. And so like our 2 years in Alaska, like that was my big focus, is on like really cultivating strong relationships with my kids and learning what they like and learning about them. And I don't know, I think as far as unschooling and our family's journey, like our time in Alaska was really valuable for that, to, I don't know, just kind of force us to all kind of focus on each other and kind of work through things and, I don't know, develop stronger relationships.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And the kids enjoyed it too, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, there were pluses and minuses. Like
Yeah.
it was nice to have that sort of deep focus on one another, but at the same time, like it's also a place where, like in the winter, you only get sunlight from like 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And so like it's dark a lot of the time in the winter. But conversely, like when you get there like in the summertime, you get light like well after midnight. So yeah, our sleeping schedules were insane living there. But and for me, like it was the winter and the darkness was really hard, and I had to really work hard not to like develop seasonal depression and that sort of thing. So like the 2 years was kind of enough for us. And also like it was hard if you want to go outside and play, like especially, it's like a 20-minute ordeal to get on all your gear and stuff like that. And then like especially for the real little ones, they would go outside for 5 minutes and be done. And then, spend 20 more minutes pulling off gear. So I mean, there's pluses and minuses. And for me, like it was a really valuable time for us, but it wasn't like a forever home. So, and when we were searching for our next place to go, like we were really, really open. We were, we looked at like Hong Kong. We were seeing if there were places in Africa, and, we were thinking about Tanzania. And so we cast a really sort of wide net, and we're really open about where we were going to go. And I don't know, Saudi Arabia just ended up kind of being sort of the best job combination that allowed us the most flexibility to sort of travel to other places. And after you live in Chivac, like, lots of people who move to Riyadh, especially women, as you can imagine, feel like it's really closed in, and, they have a hard time making friends with other people and stuff like that. So, but for me, moving from Chivac, like I go to Riyadh and I'm like, yeah, I can go to a restaurant. I can go. It feels a lot more open to me in comparison, because we can get in the car and go on a road trip to the beach, or we can go, there's a lot more flexibility. And then in Riyadh, it's actually a good jumping off point to travel to other places. So like, we can go to Jordan or Egypt, or we've been over to the UAE, Qatar, and Oman. And so, and those places, like as a larger family, we can travel by car, because as a larger family, flying places on your own dime, at least, is kind of cost prohibitive. And then part of like a typical sort of expat package is a lot of times flight benefits. And so what we do is they pay for our family to fly back to Georgia each year, and we can build in layovers to different places. Like last year we spent a week in France on the way there, and 10 days in Italy on the way back. And so that job allows us the flexibility to do that, whereas as a larger family, whereas some other places we wouldn't be able to do that kind of things. So it works out well. And I've enjoyed, actually, I don't know, the projects and working in Riyadh. Like I host a homeschool meeting, and I guess I kind of take an unschooling take on the homeschool meeting that I host for weekly in Riyadh, is that I call it a video of the week meeting. And we basically watch some sort of online video, usually like a TED Talk or something like that, and that relates to education theory and something like that. And then that's kind of what the parents watch, and then the kids just get to play and do whatever they want. And so that's my homeschool meeting that I do for them. And the kids have enjoyed that, and they've gotten to know other kids from the community. Like most of the people in our group are not expats. Like most of the kids my kids have gotten to know are not Western expats, I should say. Most of the kids are Egyptian expats that my kids have gotten to know.
That's fascinating. I love that idea of for your group with watching a video. It gives you something to chat about and gives the kids time to play. That sounds like an awesome meeting.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to hear how now this time for your third location, how you guys, it didn't kind of come out of the blue or kind of fall into your lap, but you purposefully found a place, and now sounds like you're able to take advantage of so much more of the possibilities of where you chose to relocate to, because now you had an idea of more of an idea of what would be helpful for you, like all that ability to drive all sorts of places, and even starting to play with flights. That's something we started doing as well in the last few years with the layovers and that kind of stuff. So that's really cool to see how that's progressed for you guys.
Right. It's been an interesting adventure, and our kids actually, they when people find out you're flying with 6 kids, their eyes get really wide. But our kids actually fly really, really well, and I guess I feel like I should say knock on wood or something like that. But they do. I don't know. They fly really well, and it's usually mostly uneventful. And I just try to kind of go with the flow of, we're just get everyone where we're going, make sure we have all our stuff, and sort of not try to manage them too much. And that works well for us.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I would like to move over to your website now and your blog, because I really did have a lot of fun reading around there. And I wanted to talk to you a bit about, you have a great 4-part series about hard work. So you're digging into the question, do people do hard things even when they are not forced to do them? And I love digging in that, because to me that was such a cool insight into people in general, and into one of the great surprises of unschooling, something that I didn't expect at first, but discovered along the way. So I love digging into that. And I enjoyed the connection that you made between the conventional method for encouraging hard work, which is, you get this thing done and you get some sort of reward for a job well done, right? Whether it's a mark or a sticker or even, monetary prizes or whatever. But right. The connection between that conventional method and the development of a sense of entitlement. So I was hoping you could explain that connection for us.
Sure. So, right, the conventional thinking is, you have a behavior you want, and you either punish or reward to kind of push the person, the child, towards that behavior. And Alfie Kohn has written a book and lots wonderful things on, and kind of looking into the research and saying, the research says this doesn't get you where you want to go, as far as, making somebody just motivated out of their own goodwill to do this thing. And it's basically kind of, so with the rewards and punishment, I like to think of it as kind of like a pull the string. So for either good or bad, you're pulling the string to kind of, with rewards or punishment, to get a person to do what you want. And most parents and people, the idea is you're pulling the string for good. You're getting them to do like this good thing, this good outcome is the reason why you're doing it. But the thing I kind of started thinking about is Stanley Milgram did experiments on people, and this is kind of in response to World War II and Nazi Germany and like all the atrocities that happened there. And his question was, well, why would people do this? How could good people do this? And I had read other books about, that walked you through like these sort of normal average German citizens and like all the small little steps that happen to get them to like a place where they would never thought they would be, of atrocities that happen. And so Milgram's experiments had people separated, and the subjects of the experiments thought they were pushing a button to harm a person in another room that they could not see, but they could hear. And the only thing telling them to do that, or, imposing upon them to do that was just somebody in authority telling them to do that. Like there was no other coercion or anything like that. And the Milgram experiments found that overwhelmingly most people, even though it clearly would go against their conscience, continued to do what they thought was harm to the other person. And it just got me thinking about like this idea of, I don't know, conditioning people with pulling the string, that Milgram calls this the agentic state, where that basically you relinquish responsibility, or you think you relinquish responsibility to the person in authority. And so you say, well, I don't have to be responsible for this because the person in authority is responsible for this. And it stops you from like really considering your decisions, like whether or not what I'm actually doing is a good idea or a bad idea, because the person in authority has thought of that for me. And with rewards and punishment, like the pulling the string, that's kind of what we're conditioning for, is that you don't have to think about this anymore because I've thought about it, and you're going to do it because I've thought about it. And that's, you're going to keep doing that. And so it conditions them to not think about, critically consider their decisions. And then when you kind of also think about the rewards and punishment in light of entitlement, then that kind of goes back to, you condition people to only want to do a thing if they're getting some sort of benefit, whether that benefit be lack of punishment or an actual reward, rather than this sort of altruistic, freely giving of yourself that you want to, you want to give to another person. And so the idea is you create like this reward economy that you're paying for the behavior you want or the goodness you want, rather than people just being good to be good and to freely give themselves. And my thoughts on sort of, so with unschooling, the idea is that people are naturally hardworking and giving and altruistic, and that when you implement sort of a reward economy, the rewards and punishment, that sort of pushes people away from their natural inborn interest in doing this. In part 3, I talk about cultivating grit, and and kind of where all of this started for me was that, well, being Christian, and kind of especially American and Christian, kind of those two, the hard work idea is kind of tied together in a lot of ways for that. And so like a lot of, I guess, sort of responses to the thought of unschooling was that, well, it seems nice in theory, but, it makes lazy people and that sort of thing. And so I kind of wanted to explore the idea of like, well, is that really the case? And kind of what have other people written on this, and where's the research on this? And so like, even if you like pull it back and kind of start at a baby, Alison Gopnik wrote the book Philosophical Baby, The Scientist in the Crib, and she does this wonderful job of like talking about how just babies are these just super motivated and beings, and they try again and again and again and again and fail again and again and again and again before they actually, master this new skill. And they're also, just hugely curious, and they're babies are into everything. And we see this, and it's normal for us. And then, but somehow we kind of think that just gets flipped off. You just flip a switch kind of when you're 5 and you go to school. But
Yeah.
and I don't think that's the case. Like nothing else works like that. And, humanity where there's a flip switch. It's all like this over time and kind of long growing process with lots of different influences that how things change. And
I think maybe, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it makes sense when you think about how that switch, when they start to go to school and they hit that age where parents start to think they need to, exert more control. And then that's where the rewards and the punishments start coming in. And that kind of subverts their whole intrinsic motivation, that whole grit that we see so clearly. We talked to Alison Gopnik had her most recent book, The Gardener and the Carpenter. We talked about Emma and I did on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, and she made such a great point that they don't give up when they're young, do they? They're like little scientists. They just keep trying and trying and trying, and it's just amazing to watch them at work, isn't it? And you wonder, we just think that it's natural for that to disappear as they get older. Oh, they don't want to learn anymore. But to realize that that's because of the environment, the huge shift in environment that we put on them between when they're young babies and toddlers, and then when they start to hit school age. I think that's such a great point that it's that environment, especially the rewards and punishments that you were talking about, how effective, I guess, but effective in not the way that we're trying, right?
Right.
That's not the point of them in the first place. We think we're rewarding them and they're gonna learn, but they learn like the complete opposite, don't they?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not where you want to go with this. I mean, like in the moment you get them to put the cup away or, whatever the thing is, but, in the long term, and I think that's kind of where most parents really want to go. They have these long-term ideals. It doesn't get you where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I like that. I really liked your point of how you're taking away when you're pulling your strings, you're taking away their agency, right? They
Right.
learn to just sit back and wait to be told what to do because never once are they or not, certainly not regularly rewarded for proactive work, right? They're mostly
Right.
just judged for whatever they chose to do. That's right or that's wrong, and that's it. And whenever you're rewarding even positive feedback, you're taking you're stealing that intrinsic motivation away from them because all of a sudden, they chose to do something and the parent says, "Oh, great job, thank you." All of a sudden,
Right.
that interaction seems like it's for the parent now.
Right, and it's still part of a reward economy because your interaction is either rewarding or punishing. Like if you're withholding that, it's like kind of like a punishment, and then by getting it, it's kind of like a reward, and so it's still, I don't know, and a lot of us have. Well, I mean, especially if you've gone through school, then yeah, you've been conditioned this way. And so you really, really, and, I still have to be really thoughtful about, what I'm doing in my interactions because, I guess I'm reconditioning myself. So I'm having to think about it differently than, I grew for, most of my years growing up. I had this large swath of experience that reinforced that that's how things should be done.
It's really fascinating. The random tidbit. When I look at my website, the page that gets visited most, like from Google searches, is an article I wrote about uh, I'm so proud of you. It's about, and obviously I go into on the, the other side, why that why you're taking away their agency. I like that word. And interfering with their process. But it's fascinating that that is just such a huge topic. I think so many of the searches are for people, wanting to uh, say I'm so proud, or looking for ways to express that, etc. So I think they might be a little shocked when they end up coming there. But it's amazing what a wide topic that is, right? That it's people. It's ubiquitous, I think, within our culture right now. We're encouraged to reward, to praise, right?
Right.
Because we don't want to punish so much, but if you praise all the good stuff, maybe they'll want to do more. But they're, like you said, they're wanting to do it to get your positive reaction, right? To get that reward instead of choosing it intrinsically and understanding the value for them in doing something. You're just taking it all out of their hands, aren't you?
Right. Yeah. For me, a lot of what helps me clarify like my interaction with my children is if like and a lot of people said this about if you think about that interaction with your spouse, like how would you react to, him telling you he did something, finished this project at work or whatever? Would you say, "Oh, good job, I'm really proud of you"? But you wouldn't. It's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, you'd be like, oh, you'd be happy for them that
Right.
they feel good about it, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's not a conversation that you would normally have. I think that does sometimes help people start to realize the difference because as we said, it's just so natural in our culture right now to do that with children. I mean, that's how you raise children properly, right?
Right.
But yeah, it's not something that you would ever do in a relationship. If you're having a connected, trusting, strong one-on-one relationship with another person, right?
Right.
That's a layer. Yeah, that's a layer that gets that's a layer that adds to the disconnect in it, right? Because there's something else inside that relationship, not just the two people.
Right.
Yeah.
And it also like it clarifies for me when it's okay to it's okay for me to give appreciation. Oh, wow, thanks for doing the dishes. I appreciate that. Or that makes my job easier. And it's not like a reward, a praise kind of thing. It's just no, I would tell my husband the same thing, if it was my turn to do the dishes and he did them for me or whatever. I would be, "Oh, thanks." And I think a lot of with unschooling, for me, it's a lot about kind of thinking through motivations and sort of where this action is coming from. Like when people talk about with curriculum with unschooling and like all these sorts of things, like that people want to just have these rules about, okay, you can't do curriculum with unschooling or you can't, do this. And it's a lot more nuanced than that. It's more about, well, where's this coming from? Who's this coming from? And what is the interaction really about?
Yeah, I think that's something that can really get in the way when you're first because we're so conditioned and used. We just want the rules, right? We just want to even when we go to unschooling. Okay, well, tell me how to do it,
Right.
and I will do what I'm told. But the understanding the principles and why it works, and it is really what can help you create that lifestyle in your home, and the relationships that are at the foundation of it. If you don't understand it and you're just going through the motions of it, the actions of it, it's really that so often leads to chaos in families, right? Because everybody's just doing this, because we're saying yes all the time, and they're doing whatever they want, and you're not having the conversations. Like, you're 2 years in Alaska, understanding so deeply, getting to know each other and how you interact and how to move through all these different situations and everything. That's part of really deeply understanding unschooling and relationships, and how you guys are going to be able to move forward with your days versus just boom, 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 boom. We're supposed to do this. We're supposed to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I guess we should move on to the next question. I would like to shift, because to larger families with 6 kids, I think you have some experience you'll be able to share with us. So with the diverging interests, I'm sure, of 6 children, I would love to hear a bit about what your unschooling days look like, just going through the day and doing X, Y, and Z for everyone, with everyone.
Yeah, I think all unschoolers have time with this question. What a typical day looks like. For us especially, it varies depending on what location we're in and how old, what's the age range of the kids and that sort of thing. But I don't know. In general, like I kind of have a routine for myself, and the kids can kind of hop on or hop off my routine as they see fit. So like, I like to get up and have my breakfast and stuff like that, and do all my sort of self-care things sort of early in the morning. So I'm good to go for the day. And I'm super introverted. So like, I try to get up and do that kind of quietly by myself and have a breakfast with nobody else. Like, I don't mind hanging out with them when they have their breakfast later in the day, but like, I like to start my day off with quiet time, because that's helpful for me to kind of be my best self. And then sort of throughout the day, I kind of have a goal to kind of have at least one sort of face-to-face connected check-in with each child, and kind of hear what they're working on today. Do they need any help with anything, and that sort of thing. And, that's kind of tied in with just, I like to do also sort of a quiet observation thing, and that I have sort of that's part of my sort of routine. And for us in general, like throughout the year, I feel like we have since my husband still works in the school, we still are bound by some things with a typical school year schedule. But for us, like, I think it's kind of flipped than what like a lot of school kids experience, because like during the school year, our kind of routine is to kind of be really more insular and quiet, and sort of like our day-to-day during the week is kind of really low key. Like, we do not have a lot going on during the week. Like, the busiest thing usually during our week when we're home in Riyadh is to do the homeschool day once a week. But other than that, like, we're just kind of low key. And my husband likes to do like some sort of outing on the weekend. So like one day during the weekend, we'll go drive to like usually some natural site and see that. And our time during the day, like during the school year when we have kind of our slow days, is during the day before my husband gets home. The time is really flexible. My kids, most of my kids know how to fix their own meals. I usually help the younger ones fix theirs, but we don't have set meal times during the day. We just kind of, everyone sort of fixes themselves something when they want to eat during the day. And then we have a dinner together after my husband gets home in the evenings. And a lot of times, I don't know, we kind of get on a routine and off a routine of like doing regular things in the evenings. Like the one that's stuck is movie night. So yeah, we usually will have a movie night on the day before the weekend. Over there is Thursday, so usually on Thursday nights we'll have homemade pizza and a movie. But other than that, sometimes we'll plan things like we have a pool in our building, so we'll go swimming one night or do stuff like that. And so, like, during the day, it's kind of really free form and flexible. And then in the evening, it's a little more structured because we have a set dinner time. And a lot of times we'll try to do games or something sort of more planned in the evening with the whole family there. But then that's kind of our school year routine schedule. And it's really low key. Like I really don't like adding things to our schedule. Like people keep asking me about, what all are your kids involved in? And I'm like, nothing. I don't want to be involved in anything. Their life is busy enough. This is enough. And because during the summer, we're traveling to a bunch of different places, and we're, even when we're in the U.S., like we took a road trip to Washington, D.C., and like it's a lot more busy during the summer. And so we have these few months where it's super busy. And so I like to, like when it's the school year, to just have a big swath of time where we, like, all the activities are sort of, projects around the house and that sort of thing, and like sort of really, really family focused. And yeah, that's kind of how we do things.
Yeah, no, that sounds very nice. And I think that certainly sounds like our first few years of unschooling too. The kids just had so many things that they just personally wanted to get into, and we didn't have to go out a lot for it, right?
Right.
I mean, there's tons of games and there's just so many things to do at home that they were perfectly happy to have all that time just under their own control.
Right. And there's always, some art project going on, some big play scene going on. And, and that's very typical for our house. Or there's some sort of block tower or, that's, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's like a whole world of stuffed animals set up, and
yes.
pirate battles, and then there's that 2-3 weeks in a row where you're making Play-Doh every couple of days because there's this huge town, and then there's that one summer when we had the Lego table outside and these elaborate villages were built, and and then there's all the time with I remember we did made puppets like Mario and Luigi and all these game puppets, and they would just pause like a background on the TV, and then they'd use their puppets and they'd do these elaborate shows of their own making at the time. Yeah, so yeah, I mean to have that time and the space to just like get totally in your head with whatever is catching your attention is awesome. So last question. I was hoping that you might share some tips for larger families starting to move to unschooling, because I know that's one of the questions I get pretty regularly on my blog, etc. Because we have 3, 4, 5 kids, and I'm trying to say yes more and trying to help them do things that they're interested in, and I'm feeling frazzled. They are having a hard time imagining how to shift from just telling everybody, yes, no, this is what we're doing, to start incorporating their input into their days, basically. So I was just wondering if you had any tips for larger families who are starting to move to unschooling.
Right. Well, the best way that I've kind of come to think about it is like when you have a larger family, like you feel in the beginning, you feel like, you're moving an army and that sort of mentality. And so like it's hard to kind of get away from just managing everybody and everything. And so like my thought is okay, so instead of shifting away from, managing your children and all these people, work on managing yourself and managing the environment. So you really focus on, like for me, I focus on self-care is really important because I need to have the energy and the focus and to be able to, work with my kids in whatever way they need. So like I've kind of developed sort of strict boundaries about, no, I'm going to sit here quietly. I'm going to get up super early and sit and have a quiet breakfast because that's kind of what I need to, happily focus on the rest of the day. And also managing your environment is really big. Like I know in unschooling circles, I don't know, talking about minimalism, I don't know, it kind of has kind of a two-edged thing because like you want to feed your kids' interests, but also, I think a lot of moms, especially in larger families, when you times those things times 6 or more or whatever, that it becomes overwhelming. So I think, I don't know, for me, minimalism has really, or embracing as much minimalism as kind of an American family can stand, it has really helped to kind of simplify things. So like during the day, we have one set of dishes for everyone and we rinse and reuse them. So, and I wash dishes once a day. In Alaska, we didn't have a dishwasher, so I like doing it in the morning, but we have a dishwasher now, so you can do it in the evenings and they're ready to go for the next day. And so having kind of less stuff overall has helped with that. And like with their wardrobes, like when they were really little, like we would, and we weren't even unschooling, but like they would do what I call the everything must go sale, where everything in their drawers got pulled out and onto the floor. So like what we ended up shifting to was like a lot fewer clothes and I don't buy clothes that need folding. I buy clothes that can all be washed with different colors. So we don't fold, we don't sort. And then so lots, and I know those things don't sound like they have to do with unschooling, but it simplifies your life and frees you up to focus more on relationships and more on kind of, let's work on this fun project, because you don't always have that chatter in the back of your head of, I'm not getting this done, I got to do this, I got to do that. Because, in your home, as many wipeable surfaces as you can, and that like helps. And I, stash little bottles of vinegar and water in a rag in different places to make it super simple, like for the kids to help clean up. Like even if they do it imperfectly, that's kind of way better than not being done at all. So rearranging your house to allow the kids to do as much for themselves, allow them to dress themselves, fix their own food. I mean, like it's going to be done imperfectly, but that's kind of how we learn. And we get to a point where it's, you're like, one day it's like, oh, wow, you're a really good cook. And, and that sort of thing. So you facilitate the kids doing kind of as much for themselves as they can. That has helped. And I also have, and depending on which home it is, I also do kind of zones, I guess, for my bedroom, like I don't like to keep toy boxes and stuff in there. Like I like to keep it kind of very much an adult room and like not sort of a kid room. And so like I'm kind of particular about that boundary. Like if a kid comes in there with a toy, I'm not cranky about it, but just in general, like if something's left in there, I'll take it and move it to a room where we keep toys. And our current house, I do that with the living room also. And so I have I'm experimenting with having a few nicer things out on display, which larger families will understand this. For years it was just, the joke, we can't have nice things. And so I have one room that I put a few things out and we kind of see how it goes. And that room we don't store toys in. And again, it's just like if they bring it in there, it's no big deal. We just take it out at the end of the day and store it in a different room where toys can go. And so kind of having zones helps me to sort of, if this is a zone that I've sort of designated for the kids to kind of do their thing in, and it's a mess, that doesn't bother me as much. So, because I mean, that's what they're supposed to be doing there. And so I can just go sit in the living room where it's reasonably tidy because we don't keep toys and stuff in there. And that kind of helps me sort of to be more relaxed about the chaos and stuff like that, to simplify life. And so I can kind of get in there with them. Yeah. And it makes it easier.
Well, I really, really like that. That's a ton of tips about the environment. That's a great way to think about it, because you mentioned the point where, you don't want to be feeling not guilt, but in the back of your mind thinking, I should be doing this, I need to be doing this. But there is so many ways to just manage the environment where you're not feeling that pull.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Like the way you talked about the dishes and having toys in certain places and the clothes, like just finding ways to manage the environment within which you guys are all in, that makes it just so much easier for you guys to engage. Like you said, doesn't matter that the room's messy where, the kids have all their things, and you can go in there and just have fun with them, right? Because, that's where that happens without worrying about, having in the back of your mind that the living room is a mess or whatever. I think that's a really great point. And I was sitting here listening to you thinking, yeah, that works so well for us too. I remember when the kids were younger and first home and we just put everything down. We made a nice big family kind of room down in the basement, right?
Right.
And a big closet that was just full of their stuff, and we could go down there. And when I went down there, it was just relaxed. This is kid time, let's just get into whatever we feel like getting into, right? And then we could go upstairs for movie night. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today, Tami. I had a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you so much. I have too.
Oh, that's wonderful. And before we go, where's the best place for people to connect with you online?
I occasionally write at starryeyedpragmatist.com. It's very infrequent though. So
I love that name, by the way. I will definitely have links to that in the show notes. And thank you very much, and have a great day with the kids.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for listening. I hope you found it helpful. You might also like the backlist episodes at livingjoyfully.ca/podcast. While you're there, be sure to check out the Tuck Talks. For 6 years, I hosted the Toronto Unschooling Conference. It was an amazing experience, and I loved meeting many wonderful unschooling families. Though I no longer host the conference, the unschooling insights shared by the amazing speakers over the years are timeless. You can listen to all 25 talks for free on my website at livingjoyfully.ca/conference. Until next time, have fun living and learning with your family.